Hello and welcome to the sideboard, here for the deck text for the Players' Championship. I'm Ken Crocker, here with at-large bid John Morawski. John, how you doing today?
Hi Ken, good.
Feeling good?
Yeah, I'm
Feeling
ready to
confident?
go. Yeah.
All right, John. So once you get done with Legacy, you're going to be playing some Modern. So Let's talk about the Modern deck you chose to play. And this does not look like any of the Modern decks that you actually had a lot of success in the IQs. So it being an open tournament like this, there's 15 other players, but they all have access to our deck database. So if you've done well in IQs, which John has done very well, winning several, we get to see what decks you played in those events.
Right.
This is not one of them.
No.
So why did you choose to play Burn for this event?
Well, this is a pretty predictable field, and I've bounced around a lot in Modern and had trouble finding a home I liked, but I've always considered this to be one of the Tier 1 decks. And when I made my list of what I expected to see, there weren't too many decks on that list that I was afraid to play against with Burn.
Fair enough. So, pretty similar strategy to Zoo, but more spell-based than creature-based. So you start with your creatures, your 4 Goblin Guides, your 4 Swift Spear, your 2 Lavamancer, 4 Nacatl, and 4 Eidolon. That's it. That's all we got creatures. From now on, we're slinging Burn at your face. So we got 4 Atarka's Command. Now, I got to ask, how is this card any different from Skullcrack? Are there any times in which you're choosing the other modes for Atarka's Command?
Yeah, for sure. A lot of the time you are choosing the +1/+1 because you're trying to get more than 3 damage out of your burn spells.
So you're hoping to have a bunch of creatures on the field, or at least like a Swift Spear and maybe a Nacatl, and that's
my ideal draws are 1-drop into Eidolon or triple 1-drop followed by Atarka's Command.
Fair enough. So it actually does have a little bit more, so that's why you're probably not playing Skullcrack.
Yeah.
All right, so we got the 4 Boros Chimes, 4 Lightning Bolts, hey, 4 damage, 3 damage. It's pretty easy to see why they're in the deck.
Yeah, pretty straightforward.
1 Mutagenic Growth. What's that for?
Well, it's for Lightning Bolt. Lightning Bolt's a pillar of the format. It's in a lot of the decks. I expect anywhere from 5 to 10 players in this Players' Championship to be playing Lightning Bolt decks, whether it be Twin or Jund. Also, Tarmogoyf's an issue. Sometimes this gets you through a Tarmogoyf.
Fair enough. So are you using it mostly for defensive purposes or offensive purposes?
Yeah, it's mostly there to protect my creatures from Lightning Bolt because getting multiple hits in with creatures is how you win games with this deck. Also, once I learned that it's going to be an exchange decklist tournament, having a 1-of like that really messes with how your opponent has to play.
So now they have to think about it.
Maybe they have to bolt my Goblin Guide on their turn before they get a trigger. Maybe they Snapcaster Bolt in their main phase instead of my combat phase. And seeing how people choose to play against this card will be interesting, whether they respect it or not.
A little tricksiness coming.
Yeah, got to keep them honest.
Yeah, definitely got to keep them honest. So, and then obviously you have your Burn Suite, you have your Lava Spikes, your Rift Bolts, 2 Searing Blades. So why only 2, and B, why Searing Blades over Searing Blood?
Yeah, 3 damage is a lot. It's a big difference for the mirrors. There's cards like Wild Nacatl walking around. And to combo with other burn spells, I'd rather have it do 3 damage.
So Searing Blood really not hitting a lot of the creatures you wanted to?
Searing Blood was never really on my radar. I did strongly consider Lightning Helix in this slot.
Okay.
I considered the 4th Rift Bolt. Rift Bolt's a little rough in the late game top decks because you want to cast it that turn and 3 mana can be a bit much.
Sure.
This is a great card, turns 1 through 3, turns 4 and 5, it starts to get a little suspect when you want to just cast it right away.
So Searing Blade is much better top deck than some of your other burn spells.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard in a 20 land deck to always have your landfall, but Searing Blaze is, in a lot of spots, the best thing you can be doing, All
right, so speaking of your lands, you talked about 20, but I mean, they're pretty obvious, so we'll just kind of run through them. It's, you have your 3 Arids, 3 Bloodstained Mire, 3 Sacred Foundries, so so far all you have to fetch is all these red dual, you have red dual lands, red fetch lands, so 3, 3, and 3 again, and then 2 mountains. So are there any concerns about Blood Moon affecting you?
No, not really. If people want to side in 3-mana enchantments, I'm happy about it.
You're ready to burn them out?
Right, that doesn't affect the board. If it creates a card in my hand to be dead, I'm fine with them spending 3 mana on that trade.
All right, so let's go to the sideboard where usually burn decks are, it's fairly hard to sideboard with a burn deck because you have to keep up spell density in order to finish off your opponent.
Right.
But you seem to have gone with the more hateful sideboard. So we have a 1 Stony Silence, 3 Destructive Revelry. I have to assume those are for like affinity, maybe, you know, maybe a little bit of twin for the Destructive Revelry, some Tron, things of that nature. But this is the one I like to see, Deflecting Palm. So exactly what is Deflecting Palm there for?
All right, this is normally a slot where I have Core Firewalker or Lightning Helix, but I didn't know how much of the mirror to expect. I thought there may only be 1 or 2 other burn players, possibly none. So knowing I'm coming to Roanoke and I have to beat the SCG players, I expect Tom and Todd to be on Infect, and I wanted my mirror hate to overlap against Infect.
So Deflecting Palm, obviously, good choice there then.
It serves as my Lightning Helix for the burn mirror and also gives me more interaction against Infect post-board.
So you have Rending Volley, assumingly for twin again. Path of Exile, just good, you know, it's just a good spell. Probably for Worm Coil Engine, probably can never beat that card.
Yeah, that card's annoying. Kitchen Finks is annoying. Tarmogoyf, these are the reasons this card's here.
Tassiger if it gets played. Gut Shot, one of.
Yes.
Who is this for? Because there's no way you're playing one Gut Shot for just good reason. You have to have a good reason for this.
Well, the goal of my deck is to go under my opponents by casting all 1-drop spells for the first couple turns. And against matchups like Affinity and Infect, they can also go very low and dump their whole hand by turn 2 or 3.
Sure.
So I wanted more free spells to make sure I can dump my hand just as quickly as they can, basically. So yeah, it's there for Affinity and Infect, yeah.
All right. And then finally you have 2 Molten Rains, but it looks like you've taken a very hateful sideboard in Burn, which is not usually, I mean, you're used to seeing like Molten Rain. That's kind of common at this point because it also deals damage. But you've just taken a very hateful sideboard. You've actually played a lot of white spells in your sideboard. So was that more of a metagame call? Like if you were to play this in an open, would there be less hate in the sideboard?
For sure. In an open field, I would have more well-rounded cards that can hit a diversity of decks. But I felt like in a tournament like this, I really just had to go with my guesses on what I thought people would play and play the most hateful cards for those decks.
Well, it's definitely a good way to go about it. So, Mr. Morawski, thank you for taking the time to size him from the sideboard. We really appreciate it. Good luck burning people's faces off in Modern.
Thank you. I look forward to it.
All right, you guys stay tuned for more Players Championship action.